Well, welcome to Schenectady today. We're on the road, and right now we're sitting here in the window up in the upper third floor of Proctor's and looking out. But we're going to be headed out because we've got great interviews coming up. We're going to be interviewing the Kelly Adirondack Center. We have the executive director, Marge Amodio, is going to be there, and we'll be talking to her about this wonderful space, 11 acres for the Autobahn. And then we're going to be talking about the Electric City Barn with Kristen Holler. She's the executive director there as well, and we're going to find out exactly what great spaces it's going to be for artists and people who create things. And then we're going to wrap up the show at the Empire State Aerosciences Museum. They're putting together a Concorde exhibition, and that's going to be permanent. Plus, you'll see some great planes. We got a great show for you. Well, here we are. We're on St. David's Lane, and we're at the Kelly Adirondack Center of Union College. This is an amazing place if you've never been here, and I have to admit, I had never been here. This is an amazing place to visit. If you can see over there, you can see the house of Paul Schaefer. He built that. It was built in 1935, although it was built as a Dutch replica. And if you go inside, you're going to find that some of those beams are from 1700s, and they're 300 years older than that. So this is an amazing place. They have an amphitheater here, and there are gardens, and there's exhibitions of photographs, and the Autobahns are fully invested in this community. And there's a path of 111 acres that you can walk on. Oh, please come and visit. This is a wonderful place. It's called the Kelly Adirondack Center of Union College. We're here at the Kelly Adirondack Center of Union College. This is an amazing place. I have to admit, I live probably less than a mile away, and I didn't even know it existed. We're so happy to be here today to learn about it, and you will be happy too when you find out what this place has to offer. It's a wonderful facility. It's on, how many acres?
The house itself is on 2 acres of land, but it abuts the rice sanctuary, and that's 111 acres
111
of
acres. I couldn't believe it when I saw the number. And your position here, Margie, what is that?
I'm the coordinator.
Okay.
So I plan the events here and plan the exhibits and help out the students with their research in the Adirondack Research Library.
Well, and the one thing when I went to your website to look, I was amazed. You have a large collection of books. You've got Audubon. You're a bird, you know, the people with the Mohawk Hudson bird. I mean, this is an amazing space, and it's an amazing learning facility.
It is, absolutely. You know, we've collected so much information on the Adirondacks to share with the Union community and the wider public.
Yeah.
And we're really looking for every opportunity to do that, and whether it's through programming or exhibits. We offer for the students on campus, we have summer research fellowships. Nice. So we're really looking for every opportunity to reach out to the Union community and the wider public.
And you have gardens. Of course, right now we're filming this. There's no gardens, but when you see this, there will be gardens because you're going to be seeing this in July. But one of the things that I noticed looking out the window is an amphitheater. I would have thought of an amphitheater out here. What do you do there?
The amphitheater is actually made of Catskill bluestone, and we use it for some of our programming. So we actually had the Adirondack Shakespeare Company here a couple of years ago. And they did Hiawatha for children.
Oh,
so they were running around with drums all through the audience. It was really a fantastic experience. And last year we had a group of girls here who they were instrumentalists, and the one girl was practicing her violin out there. I still get goosebumps.
I was going to say, you probably got goosebumps.
Absolutely, with the forest behind her. It's just the most exquisite space out there, and you know, it's not good for programs if you have a PowerPoint presentation. But if you have,
you don't come here. Well, but you do have a room here.
We have a room here for that type of thing too. But for outdoors, for musical events and theater things, it really is a phenomenal space. We're so lucky to have it.
Well, and when I walked in, well, first of all, you have an exhibit here of bird photos. Tell me about that, because the photos are incredible.
So our current exhibit is of the Audubon winners from their last year's photography contest. It's a traveling exhibit, so we've only got it for 3 weeks.
It's amazing.
It is amazing, and it's part of a series of exhibits that we offer people. We try to do one exhibit each year of things from the Adirondack Research Library. Our next exhibit that will be on this summer is the Kay Flickinger Dockstetter exhibit. She was a Niskayuna native who moved to Galway, and she was 46 or number 41. So she was very early on, and she took photographs, and a lot of photographs. We have about 700 of them.
They're in your collection?
They're in our collection. They're all 2 by 3 inches, but we've blown
Are
them
they the
up.
photos or are they slides?
There are photos, and we actually have the negatives too.
Oh,
So
negative.
and she wrote on the back, thank you, for where exactly the places were that she took the photographs and who was in the photographs. So we've blown them up.
I wish everyone would do that.
I know.
Of course, now with digital.
Yeah. So we've blown them up. Some of them are 36 by 48 inches, really big, and they just really deserve it. The landscapes are just phenomenal, and her pictures of people are just unbelievable.
The idea that we have such, it's almost like a bird sanctuary. I mean, I live not far from here, and we get the egrets, and we get the great blue herons, and we get a plethora of birds, that you can hardly, I'm not a bird identifier. I can tell a blue jay from a cardinal. But some of the other little ones with little speckles and stuff, I'm not sure what they are.
Absolutely. Well, tomorrow morning we have a Birding for Beginners walk. One of the presidents of the local Audubon has offered to take us on a Birding for Beginners walk through the Rice Preserve.
Idea.
So that's the kind of thing that we're looking to offer people. I know a little bit about birds, but I would like to know more about birds, and offer all different, a wide spectrum of opportunities.
So, I mean, this is happening now, but I'm sure that those classes will go on
Absolutely.
forever.
Absolutely.
Because you want people to learn about them. Now, my first question is, how did Kelly get into this?
So then,
I'm going to ask about.
I'm going to start back in 1908, if that's all right. So
sure.
In 1908, Paul Schaefer was born, and he's really the impetus behind this whole project.
And we all know Paul Schaefer. He was the one with the seeding of the cloud.
That was Vincent Schaefer.
Oh, that was
right?
Vincent Schaefer, right? Yeah.
So Paul Schaefer was a.
Sorry, I mixed him up.
It's all good. Paul Schaefer was a builder here in Niskayuna, but he was also very interested and very invested in the Adirondacks. And Audubon actually named him one of the top 100 conservationists of the 20th century. Right here in Niskayuna. So he built this home himself in 1935.
It's an amazing home. You really have to come see it.
It's absolutely a beautiful home. And so when he passed away, the Association for the Protection of the Adirondacks, which he had been the vice president of for 50 years, purchased the home with the idea of keeping it as a tribute to him and using it as their offices.
Right.
And when it wasn't big enough, they added on a beautiful addition in 2004.
Beautiful.
Beautiful, and it also houses the Adirondack Research Library.
Yeah, I saw the library in here.
We're so fortunate to have. So in 2011, Union College purchased the facility, and it was named after John Kelly because he was a great facilitator.
Now we got the name.
That's
now we got the
Kelly
connection there.
It's a huge enigma. Why would there be an Adirondack Center in Niskayuna, which is not in the Adirondacks? It's owned by Union College. And
it
used
is called
to be Paul
Kelly.
Schaefer's house, and it's called Kelly. So that's the history behind the whole
And
story.
you have another one, the rice.
The Rice Sanctuary in the back, that's right. It's 111 acres, so there are 4 main trails, but they're all interwoven, so you can walk as little as or as much as you want. The 111 acres back there belongs to the Hudson Mohawk Bird Club.
Oh, okay, so they own that.
Yep, but there's a parking lot here at the center where you can start the trails, and really it's a lovely walk in the woods.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a 46er to do any of it. And there are maps right at the trailhead for you.
Yeah, so that you can walk through there. Is it a good place to bring your kids to walk through?
Oh, absolutely.
So they can identify. Are things identified? Because sometimes if you walk in there, there's sometimes a tree is identified, so people know. That's a maple.
That's right. If you take the brochure with you, there is some information in there about exactly what you're seeing, so you'll know what you're looking at.
Of course, you can't identify the birds because they fly around.
That's right.
They're not
That's right.
too stable when it comes to that. Who's your audience?
So It depends. We have a really wide and varied audience. Besides the students and the professors from campus, the local...
Maybe use it as a learning and also as a meeting place.
That's right, that's right. We've got the local community members. We have people who are interested in Paul Schaefer homes. We have people who are interested in researching the history of the Adirondacks or the cultural aspects of the Adirondacks. And grades 4 and 8 now have New York State history as a part of their Common Core.
I'm so glad to hear that.
And they study New York State. So this would be a perfect place to bring students.
Even though it isn't in the Adirondacks. We know
That's
that
right.
it's not in the Adirondacks.
That's right.
But so what?
But so convenient, right here in
It's
this
here.
building.
Maybe you can't get to the Adirondacks, but you're in here.
Absolutely.
I mean, Paul Schaefer built this house in 1935, but some of the beams and things are older than that. Is that correct?
That's right. The beams in the home, a lot of them were taken from an old Dutch barn in Rotterdam that was built in 1701.
Okay.
And the wood from the beams is dated to be from trees that were 300 years old at that time. So it's really remarkable. And so Paul Schaefer was, again, ahead of himself in the reuse, reduce, recycle. So many things.
I know.
The little treats that you'll find around the house are things that he's taken from Old Dutch Barn. He really had such a respect for the barns.
Yeah, and it's an amazing building, because if you think it was built in 1935, you know, we know what the houses look like in 35. This doesn't look like a house that was built in 1935 at all.
That's right. He was really going for that look that the Dutch
He was
settlers,
going for the look.
type of the home
Yeah.
they would build.
And when I drove up, it was like, oh my gosh. I mean, it takes your breath away.
It really does. It's such a gem. I'm
Yeah.
spoiled to get to come to work here every day.
You get to work here every day, you lucky person, you. Tell us about some of the, how do you get like concerts? If suppose somebody would like to give a concert. Would that be something they could call you and say, I'd like to give a concert. I don't want any money, but I would just love to be able to fill the woods with my music.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm the person to contact for anything
Okay.
like that, or if they're interested in coming to concerts or getting on our mailing list. We don't send out junk. We only send out information
Right.
about our programs and our exhibits. So we're happy to send the information.
This is great, yeah.
We'll give you up-to-date information, and on our website too.
Yeah, and of course right now we're we're filming this in April, which is kind of been a dreary month for us, but you can almost feel it today, especially, that things are going to start blooming. You have gardens here. Are your gardens special, or are they?
They are actually. They were planted by the Niskayuna Garden Club, and they actually won awards for them.
Okay.
And between, we have Mike Gann, who works for us, and takes very good care of them, and the Union College facilities people are just amazing. And they're as devoted to the house as we all are. And people, once they come here, they'll recognize. We get so many students coming here, and they're like, wow, this is amazing. I would love to live in a house like this.
I know. Well, that's exactly what my camera person said. He says, I'd love to live here.
It's
I said, I don't think they'll
wonderful.
let you.
But just, we get all different kinds of people, and the house really speaks to people.
Yeah. But it's really a very good, excuse me. So we found that being here and being in this environment and feeling almost that we are in the Adirondacks. I know that we aren't in the Adirondacks, but the feel of this house is Adirondack. When you look at the paintings, well, today's paintings, but there's going to be other paintings. They're going to give us that same feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's such a great opportunity to learn more about the Adirondacks, so that when you go into the park, you'll have a fuller experience. You'll know a little bit more about the culture, a little bit more about the history, a little bit more about the animals.
Yeah, and I've got a list of your events coming up, and I'm glad to be on your mailing list, and I want to start attending some of your wonderful events and spreading the word.
Excellent. Thank you so
We've
much.
been speaking with Margie, and how do you pronounce your last name?
Amodio.
Amodio. And she is the coordinator here, and is doing such a marvelous job on a place that I didn't know existed, and I want to give her a big shout out for doing such great, just having such great place to work and to have people come and visit, and I'm sure the exuberance that they feel after they've been through here is just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anne.
Well, here we are. We are at the Empire State Aerosciences Museum, and right here is where it all started. In 1946, General Electric had their flight test center, And this is we're at the Schenectady Airport. And where we are at right now is we are at the Air Museum, and this is an amazing place to come. There's a wonderful museum, there's all kinds of planes out there, but we're here today especially to find out how they're reconstructing the Concorde, because this is their new exhibit, and that's going to be out in front. So I'm Ann Perillo, and you're watching Schenectady Today on the road, and we are now at the Empire State Aerosciences Museum. So come along with me and see what else is here. Okay, I'm here, and this is an amazing museum. I know I've said it before, but I really mean it. It's wonderful.
Thanks.
And we've got the door here, but I have Kevin with me, as we've introduced him before. But Kevin, what would we see in this museum?
You'll see a tremendous amount of exhibits. These are really spectacular exhibits. Out here, some of the key exhibits we have is a 1916 French Newport 17 fighter.
Oh, I remember when you were putting that together.
Yes, and then the Zonta Club of Schenectady acquired a replica of the Lockheed Electra. It was in the movie, the 1995 movie Amelia Earhart, The Final Flight. Which
this is a replica.
Replicated.
Because we don't know where her plane is, right?
Yeah, apparently it's off Gardner Island in the South Pacific.
I think they did figure that out.
Yes, and then the other large exhibits we have there, you'll see, is our oldest plane is a 1910 Curtiss Pusher, a few years after the Wright brothers, that Glenn Curtiss built.
Was that a biplane?
It was.
Okay.
Very, just like the original Wright
Yeah.
Flyer, kind of. And then our oldest exhibit is an 1898 Chinook glider, which is just in the back of us, hanging from the ceiling, which we rescued from a garage in Amsterdam,
Get out.
New York, yeah, and then they donated to the museum.
I mean, who keeps an airplane in their garage?
Well, apparently this fell in Amsterdam.
Yes,
Got
I
an
did.
1898 Chinook glider built by Octave Chinook, who was one of the, just before the Wright brothers. He consulted with the Wright brothers.
Now, Chinook, would this be the Chinook Flyers from the same family, I wonder?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that was during World War II.
World War I. He started.
Yeah, but World War II, there were the Chinook Flyers that went.
I think it was named after Octave Chinook, yeah.
Okay,
Chinook Air Force Base
Yeah.
in Illinois as well.
Right.
So it's a pretty
Excuse us while we
No, it's a
commiserate here.
spectacular exhibit, and
Yeah.
there's much more out there, interactive exhibits, and we're currently renovating the hangar and hope to do a larger effort. This is a 70-year-old building, so we have a lot of constraints on the maintenance of it. So
But wait a minute, I found out that a company can adopt a plane.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, Gary Davis and Rich Benevue, who spearhead our restoration work group, have designed this wonderful program to get the public more involved. So we have the Adopt a Plane program, which I'm happy to participate in.
You don't have to take it home, though.
No. What you would commit to doing is helping us wash the planes out there and then paint them as well. They have to be
When they need it.
Yes, and it's one of our greatest assets in the museum is the Alto Airpark. We have 20 really historic military jet, largely fighter attack aircraft and the helicopter.
And those are outside, a lot of them, so they do get weathered.
Yes, they're outside full-time, and then so they require quite a bit of attention because we want them obviously in good shape. They're one of our biggest assets. So Gary Davis and Rich Benevue are spearheading that, and they've already got, I think probably about half the planes are already adopted now.
Well, now, how would a company that's watching this right now, what would they do to go ahead and adopt a plane?
I would recommend checking on our website. Of course, we have a full description of the program, or calling the museum and Gary for more information on it. And before you go, I'll give you we have a.
I don't know if I can adopt one, but
we have a packet of information that describes. It's a small commitment, but it's a great commitment to us. It's a great help to us.
Do they get their name kind of
They
like
do.
in front that says, this is my company?
Absolutely, yeah. Gary and Rich will also arrange for the folks who do it. We have signs.
Get a little credit for it.
We do. We have signs out there now which describe the aircraft, and then attached to that sign will be will identify and thank the folks that contribute to its restoration.
And it's revolving, so they could do it 1 year after the other, or another company could take over if they couldn't
besides
make
that,
it.
it's just fun. I mean,
It's just
where else
fun.
we get to work on everything from a
And say, I have adopted a
an
plane.
F-14 Tomcat, or
Wow.
Gary and I are going to be working on the T-2 Buckeye, which is a Navy jet trainer.
You do so much here. It's amazing when I saw the replica of the Concorde. That's an amazing
It is.
accomplishment to get that from Times Square.
Yeah, and we have a great cadre of volunteers.
I met a number of them, and they're
Yeah.
wonderful,
And-
and they're dedicated.
Yes.
How much do they get paid for doing this?
We've doubled their salaries from 0 to 0, I guess, huh? But besides that, you know, our vice president, Peter Russo.
And he's right here,
He's right
actually.
here.
Hi, Peter, come on over and say hi.
Yeah,
Come on.
Peter is spearheading an effort with us to develop a program for renovating the entire hangar.
Peter Russo, tell our viewers a little bit about what you're doing here.
Well, we're trying to work with the county to rehab the main hangar, which you saw when we first entered Gallery 2. It was built by GE way back in 1945.
45.
And it was opened in 46. But some interesting facts of the history of it is that when they had the grand opening and Mr. Wilson was president of GE, Stuart Symington came up, who was then like a secretary of the Air.
He was secretary of the Army Air Force.
Army Air Force,
Symington,
right?
okay.
Yeah. And he mailed a letter to the president, and this was the very first airmail.
Oh my gosh.
The very first airmail left this airport and flew to D.C.
I'll be darned. And interesting, I was at the post office and now they have an airmail stamp that you can buy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just came out, so that's kind of
Oh,
cool.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
With a
There's
little
a
airplane.
lot of history here,
Yeah.
you know? And we can go on and on about the stories of what happened here, but
Oh, I'm sure there's so many backstories associated with so many of the planes that you received or purchased. However you got them here,
Right.
that's all. And the amazing thing is that when they get these planes, suppose it comes from, we'll say Nebraska. This has to be taken apart and then
put together.
put together.
Yeah.
Amazing. And how do they transport it? On trains or?
Barges.
Barges. Yeah, because
Well-
one just recently came in on a barge, didn't it?
Yeah.
A couple
Well,
years ago.
We had
Well, we
three,
took-
three of them. We opened up the,
Three of them,
with
yeah.
Brian Stratton, you remember,
Yeah.
on the Canal Commission then.
Right.
And we opened up the state canal system this time of the year.
I
It was
remember
about
that.
7 years
I think
ago.
I still have the photos.
Yeah, and we transited 3 jets through the locks at Waterford, then brought them up to the Mohawk River Dimension fabricators who helped us. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, we towed them up here to the airport.
Right.
So it's pretty,
What an exciting place to work.
yeah.
Or not work, or volunteer, I should say.
Volunteer.
Volunteer, because I understand volunteering.
It's not work
No.
when you're doing what you want to do.
Exactly. And who's your president? You're the vice president, right?
Yeah. Bud Matthews is our current
Okay,
president.
we want to give him a little shout out
Oh,
too,
yeah,
because
Bud
the
does
president does a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we have 2 other gentlemen here, and you've already met Dan Wilson, and come on over here. Yeah.
Gary?
Gary's here. Gary, what are you doing here?
At the present time, I'm a volunteer member of the restoration crew. What we do over in the restoration hangar is we refabricate parts of an aircraft. If we get an aircraft in and say part of one of the plates is rusted or rotted out, what we do is we take that plate off and then refabricate that section and put it back on. The restoration crew is all volunteers. It's not a job, it's a love affair for us. And quite a few of us on the restoration crew are veterans. So for us, it's a labor of love. We love what we're doing, and we need volunteers.
Well, let's
If you have-
get people to come out there and volunteer.
If you have some free
Men
time.
and women, right?
Yes. There's nowhere else you can come out and actually put your hands on a jet or a helicopter and have so much fun. So we need volunteers, but we invite people to come up to the museum and see how things are going. The Concorde is another aircraft that we just got in. We are right now we're sanding it, getting it ready to power wash, and once we get all 3 sections together, it will be out front. That's where the reassembly will be. That's where we put the wings back on. There will be body work, fabrication work that will have to be done. And again, if you're in the area and you drive by ESAM, stop in and see us, and you'll actually get to see the Concorde being reassembled. which is something you won't see anywhere else.
No, and it's only going to be temporary because pretty much it'll be done and that'll be the end of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's an amazing, this is an amazing place, and I think that most of you, and I know that my videographer right here had never been here, so we're showing him the place as well. So I think you're a big secret.
Well, we are. We always, we're a nonprofit organization, so, but I think, thanks to Peter and Gary and Dan.
Dan, come on over, at
we've
least
done
get the picture here.
Much more advertising and developing events for the public and, families. So you're right, it is a very unique place.
And if you've just tuned in, Dan here is the gentleman that took it apart down at Times Square, or that area anyway.
We took it apart in
Island?
Garden City, Long Island,
Long
at
Island.
the Cradle of Aviation.
Yeah.
They wanted to put the plane up like we did, but they couldn't get the budgeting or permission from the town because there was a lot of infrastructure in the way. New York City,
Hey, we bailed them out, right?
And you talk about secrets. This museum has a potential to be in one of the best because it's one of the few that have actually on a runway.
Yeah.
Like Garden City, they have no runway. It was an old Air Force base. The city put buildings up and down the runway. You could no longer land a plane there.
Well, the amazing thing is that when we were here, and I just walked in, and Kevin says, well, there goes one of the planes, the
C-17.
transport plane.
Yeah,
And what
C-17.
plane was it that went out?
That was a
C-
C-17 Globe
C-17, okay.
that flew up from Stewart Air Base in New York, from the 105th Airlift Wing. And they provide supplies to the resident 109th Airlift Wing for their C-130s that take to Greenland.
Well, this is an amazing place, so let's see what else we can find here.
Okay.
Hi, I'm here with John Colwaite, and they have a new exhibit that they're working on, and I'm going to let John tell you about that.
Well, we have an exhibit about World War II, and we're concentrating on stories about New York State veterans exclusively. And this is a gun turret similar to one in a B-25, and this is a fuselage section of a B-25. And this gunner achieved ace status by shooting 5 enemy planes, which was really extraordinary. But we'll have stories like this, compelling stories about individuals through the whole exhibit. We have stories like this this is Clarence Dart. He was from Elmira, New York. He flew with the Tuskegee Airmen. And this wall will be covered with similar stories. They're all going to have a compelling quote. So we grab the attention of the visitors and tell a little story about them. And they will be able to go to a website and learn a much bigger story about everybody. These cases behind you here will have bomb sites and a scene of an airplane using that bomb site. We have an American one, and this will be a very rare German bomb site that used a computer to fly the plane through a dive and release the bomb. So this is a very rare, and this will be unique to this museum, I think. And we have airplanes from the war, all from both sides, to an interactive exhibit that will identify those planes. On the walls are 1,000 bombers around the wall, and that was. There were several 1,000 bomber raids, which involved very sophisticated coordination to get all those planes from dozens of air bases in England, all organized to go on the mission. But that's what 1,000 bombers looks like. And we'll have artifacts. We have a piece of shrapnel that was retrieved from a bomber by a New York State guy. We'll have an oxygen tank from a plane that crashed in Vermont with some New York State air vets on it, and many stories. 21 people will tell the story, and It's an ongoing exhibit. We'll be adding these stories of these New York State veterans, like this guy from Frankfurt, New York, who was stranded on the Greenland ice cap for 129 days. Very unusual stories. You don't normally think about the war involving Iceland and airplanes flying over the glaciers. And they were rescued by a seaplane, the first time seaplanes were used on the ice. This is a gun turret, the typical gun turret that would be mounted on a bomber. And kids will be able to get in here and experience what it was like to sit in that and have enemy aircraft coming at them. These controls that make the turret go left and right and the guns up and down are very similar to what gaming controls are today. So this is, 75 years ago, and the technology is similar to what we'd experience today.
Okay, we're at the Aerosciences Museum, and a plane just took off over here, so we got a little noise behind us. But behind me I have the vertical stabilizer for the, it's a smaller version of the Concorde, and I'm going to let Kevin Millington tell you about this.
Well, thanks, Ann. Yes, as Ann said, this is the we've acquired the largest model airplane in the world. It's a 1/2 scale replica of the Concorde, the supersonic transport, which first flew in the early 70s, retired about 15 years ago. But it's at a half scale. The model here is 25,000 pounds, is 100 feet long. We acquired it from the Cradle of Aviation Museum in Long Island. And previous to that, British Airways had it mounted on a building in Times Square as an advertisement. So our volunteers have disassembled it. It's in about 12 pieces. Behind me is the vertical stabilizer and rudder. And our game plan is to reassemble it and then place it on a pylon out in front of the airport, in front of our museum. So it's a colossal project, and it'll sure be an eye catcher. Okay, well the Concorde, the real Concorde, was a spectacular aircraft. It was a consortium designed it and built it of Great Britain and France. It was designed in the late 50s and 60s. It started flying operationally in the early 70s and flew until about 2002. 13 were manufactured, used by British Airways and Air France. And not only was the Concorde supersonic, but it was capable of flying twice the speed of sound, or Mach 2. And it was an engineering marvel. It had 4 huge afterburning jet engines. It had a capacity of only about 125 passengers. And it was largely confined, never a commercial success, due to the regulations that were enacted in 1971 preventing sonic booms over American cities, and at the same time the oil crisis and then more economical passenger planes coming into service. So as a result, it was never a financial success, and were confined largely to transatlantic routes instead of transcontinental routes. But it was a spectacular plane, very sleek, aerodynamic, small delta wing area, which necessitated extremely high takeoff and long takeoff runs. So the landing gear, I think, and the braking system on the plane were a work of art. And one of the most unique design aspects of the Concorde was its nose section where the 2 pilots and flight engineer sat. And when the Concorde landed and taking off, it had high angle of attack taking off, and landing, necessitating the nose section would pivot down on landing to allow both of the pilots to be able to get a good visual on their approach to the airport. So it was a engineering marvel. Suffered a tragic accident, I think, at de Gaulle Airport in 2002, I believe, when on a takeoff run, a tire exploded, shooting metal into I think the wing area. It caused a huge fire. The fuel tanks erupted, and I think about 120 folks all perished in it. Shortly after that, it was removed from service. If you ever want to see a real one, I think the nearest one is probably at the Intrepid Sea, Air, and Space Museum in New York City, where it sits alongside the Intrepid on the pier.
Okay. Well, here we are. We're still at the Aerosciences Museum, the Empire State Aerosciences Museum. They're located on Route 50, and it's down Rudy Chase Drive. It's there's a traffic light. You can't miss it. Come on in and check it out. But right now, we're privileged to be in the restoration room, and who knew? I mean, they have to restore these plates. So I've got Gary Davis. Come on, Gary. Come on over here. Gary is one of the restoration experts, and I'm gonna get out of here and let you explain what we're looking at here.
Okay.
I'm out of here.
What we have here is it's a nose cone section of a C-130. This was approximately built, I would say, in the late 40s, early 50s. What we're doing here is we're actually in the restoration process. Our nose cone was up in one of the fields up here behind, and it had set up there for quite some years, and it became a home for some raccoons, some mice, a lot of birds, bees, so on and so forth. So what we thought one day was, because it is so close to the 109th Air Wing over here on the other side of the runway, that we should bring it down and restore it and make it a showpiece of the museum here. So what we did was we brought this down with a wrecker. When we got it, it was a disaster. There had to have been hundreds, almost thousands of miles of wire that was in here hanging down. So what we did was we stripped out all the wire. Some of the windows that were in the front were banged up, cracked, broken. So we have taken them out, and that's part of our restoration process. And what we're doing is we want to make this part of our museum here. We're going to make it accessible for kids. We want to put in, we have 2 seats that are going. We're going to have a yoke. We're going to have throttle controls. In the front, where those windows were, we're going to have a projection screen of an aircraft actually flying, and we will have hydraulics hooked up to the nose cone, where that when kids are sitting in it in the pilot seat and waiting, the hydraulics will move the nose cone back and forth so that the kids will actually get the feeling that they're flying. And we have a lot more information going on with our nose cone here, but this has really come a long way from what we had, and when it's finished, it's going to really look nice. Okay, this is the front of our nose cone that we're working on. As you can see, there's a lot of restoration work going on with it. We've taken windows out. There's a lot of body work, restoration that has to be redone. We will be redoing that. In the front here, as I said before, it's where we will have a projection screen so that the kids will actually be able to sit in the cockpit, run the throttle controls, and when the hydraulics are hooked up, it will move back and forth so the kids will actually get the feeling that they're flying. And we also are going to have CDs to run in it, which is we recorded, which are actually engine sounds from a C-130 and also a B-25 that are in idling, and then also in forward thrust and taking off. So it's just one of the bigger parts that we're doing here to make this look as close to as possible as we possibly can. This nose cone here was actually part of the Coast Guard at one point. On the top and on the side, you can see the orange color. That was the Coast Guard colors. So now we have it here, and we're going to redo it, make it a permanent part of our restoration process. So if you get the chance to come up to ECM, it will be well worth a visit. We're doing new things here all the time, and we would love to see you. So come up and see us.
Well, we're here today and we're talking with Kristen Holler. And what an amazing thing that you've done in Albany. You've got the Albany Bar. It's a makerspace. And you're looking at in developing and coming up with the Electric City Barn here in Schenectady. What an amazing idea, but I don't know how many people know. What is a makerspace?
Sure. So a makerspace is really about creating spaces where people can come together to work collaboratively using shared space and equipment in specific discipline areas.
And these are serious artists. That is what we're looking at, is serious or wannabe serious artists.
Sure, so makerspaces can really accommodate somebody who's a hobbyist, somebody who's just starting out, but typically a makerspace will be operated, at least in part, by some folks who do have some serious skills in a particular area or craft.
So it fosters their business end of their talent. Is that how we look at it?
Yes, that's definitely, so our space in Albany is not actually a makerspace, it's more of a traditional business incubator where we have workspaces that are individually held by different creative businesses and individual
And
artists.
we have one in Schenectady right across from Proctor's. It's an innovation center as
Yes,
well.
absolutely.
But it's not art.
Right, yeah, so this is solely focused on creative-based businesses. And so the difference there is that each individual artist or business is responsible for whatever equipment or facilities that they would need to move their business forward. Whereas the makerspace at the Electric City Barn will really provide some equipment and tools that might be cost prohibitive for
that they wouldn't
a
have at
creative
home,
startup.
Or maybe
Yeah.
space. Maybe
Right.
they have an apartment and they can't do that.
Right, if you're a woodworker and you have a downtown apartment, you're going to have a really hard time
Right.
doing woodworking, for ventilation and dust and noise and all of many other reasons. And the other thing is, if you're somebody who's just trying to get into developing your skill in that area, some of this equipment is pricey and it takes some technical skill to be able to use. And so by offering the makerspace and having shared equipment facilities, you'll find somebody who's maybe just starting out can work with somebody who has a little bit more skill and to be able to access the equipment and the knowledge
I was
on
gonna say,
how to
and you
really
share, and you
utilize
share.
it.
And it's really the idea of being able to share ideas. And maybe, two people each have a little idea, it can grow into one big one.
Absolutely. That happens often in makerspaces, is that somebody will have a project idea and they'll be working on it and they come to a point where they need someone else
They're
to help troubleshoot
Yeah,
it.
they're
And
stuck.
somebody else who's a member of the makerspace who has maybe a slightly different area of expertise can step in and offer the what's needed to get the person kind of over that hump and moving along. And out of that come these really natural, organic collaborations that really can take one idea and help it grow and to evolve into something a little bit bigger, or maybe a more sustainable, rather than a project, now it's a business model. And so we're really excited about the opportunity to help create some cohesion around what we already know is a really booming creative economy within the region, and really help people to lend some structure around the projects and work that they're creating.
One of the things I think that people do not realize is that arts are very important. It's an engine in a community. And we think of, a guy who's making widgets is being the engine or doing, but we know that in Schenectady, Proctor's is an engine.
Absolutely.
It's an entertainment engine. And what's that done? It's brought a lot more entertainment engines in the area. Got Mopco, got a number of them opening up theaters. Amazing. So the same thing happens with art.
Absolutely. Creative thinkers just have the ability to, what I always say is they see opportunity where others see obstacles. They'll look at a problem and think of 15 different ways to solve it. And so helping everybody to have access to a space that really fosters that creative thinking, that design thinking and problem solving, can really start to empower people to shape their own communities and to bring these creative elements. A park bench doesn't just have to be a park bench. It can be a beautiful sculptural piece.
And we see that on YouTube, don't we?
Absolutely.
When you see the photos of some of the creative seat chairs, and usually they're in Europe, but we could do that here, can't we?
Well, right. Or, it's somebody, rather than discarding a piece of furniture because it has a little wear spot on it, now they have access to a space and some people with some skills to help them how do I sand this
Recreate.
down and refinish it and reimagine what this piece can be? And now rather than a piece of trash on the curb, we have a beautiful thing that not only does it have a function, but it's a source of pride. I fixed this up, I made it my own, I created something beautiful out of something that really could have ended up in a landfill.
Well, I understand now where we're going with this, but one of the things is that the person behind it. So I'm going to ask you, what brought you to this?
So I actually started with the barn as an intern a little over 12 years ago.
So you didn't create the barn?
I did not. I was an early adopter of the barn.
Okay.
So I connected with the barn's founder, Jeff Morrell, through social media actually about 12 years ago.
Amazing, isn't it? How you connect?
I know. Looking for opportunities to do a philanthropy project as a student. And I was home on a long weekend from school and I sat down over coffee and heard about this concept of really supporting an artist's need for affordable space to live and work so that they could then bring their creative arts in whatever form to the community, and that being a benefit to the larger community.
Right.
And I'm a product of the Schenectady City School District and the Sales School of
And they
Fine
got
Arts.
a great, oh my God, they got a great program.
I was active in theater and music and dance, and I never necessarily wanted to do that as my career, but I never thought about supporting other people who had that drive. So I actually ended up in the human resources field, and so it really just kind of brought together my love of the arts and then helping people to figure out what does your career look like and how is that not only fulfilling to you personally and professionally, but how do you sustain yourself? And so
You have to live.
Right, and so it's been such an incredible opportunity for me to take my passion for human resources and helping people figure out their career and really enhancing what people think of when they think about arts and culture in the capital region.
What about a business model? Do you address that? I mean, if they have to know that it's going to, their cost of and selling and how much you price these things and how do you, can I get medical insurance and can I pay my rent? Is there anything that you help them a lot, or not you, but someone in your program?
Yes, absolutely. So we do a lot of one-on-one coaching with our the artists in residence at the barn. So they'll come to us with a concept or an idea. We really help them to dissect what are your skill sets. What of those skills are kind of just for you and fulfill you creatively?
Yeah, what I like to do.
Right, and then what of that is actually a skill set that you can then go out and offer to other people as a means of creating revenue for yourself? I always tell people your average millionaire has 7 to 12 income streams, so should every artist. You have to be able to figure out, even if they're small pockets of potential income streams, you have to figure out what those are, and then you have to figure out who's your audience, and you have to develop that business. Now we get them started on that road, but we're not the be all end all of that type of resource. But there are places like the Community Loan Fund, the Art Center of the Capital Region. We have all of these incredible resources where people can access the skills that they need. So we provide in-house professional development opportunities. We refer people to other organizations that do this type of work. So we really see ourselves as a hub for kind of calling out what these artists' goals are and then helping to connect them to the right people and places to get the job done. And then we're also their cheerleaders. That's my favorite part, is being the cheerleader, celebrating their successes, but also when things don't go how they think they should.
And we have all those disappointments.
Absolutely, failing forward. I'm a professional at it. It's when things don't go well, we help them to say that's okay, but let's look at what happened. Let's look at what
can we tweak.
What can we tweak, and then what maybe what conditions existed that maybe contributed to how well or not well this went, and then let's make a plan forward. So it's never this didn't work, let's stop.
Yeah, don't give up.
Let's pause, reevaluate, and figure out where we are and where you're trying to go and get you there.
What do you see yourself or the Electric City Barn as having a gallery?
We will have space for that as well. Not necessarily our primary function.
Okay, I just wondered if they had places to display.
But absolutely, we will have a small theater so that we can host productions. We'll have space for galleries as well. We'll have a screening room, so digital media. We can show films and things of that nature as well. So It's as much about presenting art as it is about creating.
And I was thinking, you are certainly trying to partner with a number of community organizations. And of course, you might even be working with businesses that would display the art. So that you're kind of helping your artists to find places to display. And I think more and more restaurants like to display the art as well.
Absolutely. It's all about creating those networks. And so we do a lot of events and programs that bring a really kind of interesting cross-section of people from the capital region together in a room that may not have otherwise been together. But because we're not necessarily a traditional arts organization, we really are more of a business
Your
incubator
business model, yeah.
for the creative arts and for the creative economy. We tend to really have engagement with the business community as well as sort of the creative enterprise community and the individual artists. And so we're able to get folks in the room, and again, those collaborations happen naturally. Sometimes it's just, you need to talk to this person, and that conversation just takes off. And it becomes something I never even envisioned it being, because you just got the right people together.
It's all about networking.
Absolutely.
Well, we just came off of one of your presentations, and we're doing this interview afterward. And I just saw the energy in the room with people saying, oh, I've got this idea, and so you kind of felt that kind of like going. Now we're talking about the Electric City Bar. Where's it going to be?
So it will be at 400 Craig Street, which was the former Boys and Girls Club. Prior to that, it was St. Columbus School.
Yeah, right. Near the corner of Albany, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
Albany Street and Craig Street, yes. And so we essentially are taking, our footprint will be in the former gymnasium of the school. And it'll be, there's the main level.
They're putting apartments in there too, right?
Yes, so it's part of the Hillside View development, which is a project of the community builders. So there's 65 residential units, not just in that building, but along Craig Street
they're
and
doing
Stanley
a lot
Street.
of renovations.
It's a major investment in the Hamilton Hill community. And we're really working with those project partners to make sure that we're offering something that is of service and value to the existing community, as well as reintroducing people to the Hamilton Hill community who haven't, who haven't made it up from downtown or down from uptown, in a while.
It's revitalizing.
And really showing, there are some incredible assets in that community, and really dedicated, motivated people who really want to see that community thrive and shine.
Are you working with the Hamilton Hill Arts Center with Rachel?
The Hamilton Hill Arts Center is such an incredible institution in the community, and has such a specific and meaningful niche in what they do. And so I foresee so many opportunities to collaborate.
They could launch some of their artists over to yours. I mean, it's like it could just be a launch.
Absolutely. I mean, they have some incredible artisans that work within their programs, and so if we can offer access to space and tools that these folks could use to really bring their program to the next level, or to be able to accommodate more people in their programs, that's absolutely, we want to be an asset and an enhancement to what already exists, and we want to share in creating what that vision is for the future, what needs to exist 5-10 years from now.
Exactly, it's a long term. When are you planning on opening?
So we'll be looking at our soft opening later this year in the summer.
Okay,
so we don't have a firm date as of the
well,
moment.
Yeah,
as you know, construction
will you be
starting
starting before the apartments, or are you going to be open before the apartments, or will the apartments be open?
The apartments will be up and running. Our space is actually the last space that will be finished in the development, so it'll really depend on how the rest of the development project goes. But the community builders and UW Marks, who's the general contractor, have been so incredible and really impressive to watch how they work, and just how ingrained in the community, and like how holistic this development is.
I know, it's amazing
so
what's
cool
happening. All you need is an idea. Ideas are cheap. I always say that. Ideas are very cheap. It's the execution that's.
You need the right people.
Yeah.
You need somebody who shares a vision, and then who will bring the right people to the table, who have the chops to get it done. And so, we have had some success in Albany. We're really seeing the folks that we're working with reaching their goals and then setting even bigger goals and reaching those. And so it's really an honor and such a testament to the absolute sweat equity of the people who've moved the barn.
I love the term sweat
From
equity,
day
'cause
one.
that's really, yeah.
You know, and to the commitment of our artists to themselves and to the building of a community. You know, that we were asked to be a part of this project is really just, you know,
It's exciting.
It's
All I
so
can say
exciting.
is so exciting, and I felt the excitement in the room just earlier. I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having
and
me.
telling us about this. This is going to be aired in July. Maybe you'll be up by then. If not, people are going to learn about it. They're going to find out about it. They're going to be able to get a membership. They're going to be able to get a resident. I mean, so much great stuff is happening.
Yes,
And
we do have a Facebook page, so Electric City Barn. If people
Okay.
check us out on Facebook, they can get updates on the project, and you know, once we're up and running, find out classes and
You have a
who are.
website yet?
So
Or you
they
probably
can
will,
go
yeah.
to albanybarn.org and
Okay.
get information about Electric City Barn
Okay.
as well.
Okay, good. So you only have one website.
Yes,
That'll
yeah.
work. Very good. Well, thank you so much for being here today and telling us all about this exciting project. I'm so thrilled for it.
Great,
Thank you so much,
Ian.
Sure. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show today. We had a great fun putting it together, and we're going to be doing another one pretty soon too. We'd love to get out on the road, and if you'd like to come and visit you, well, let us know. Next week, which is June 5th, we are going to have the Circles of Mercy, the Firecrack 4, which is on the 4th of July, Juneteenth celebration, Proctor's Historical. We're going to be talking to the Jewish Community Center about all of their events coming up, and this 15th Seroptimist Annual Garden Show. So stay tuned and watch next week's show. We'll be looking for you.